And this is video part 7. It is Psych 400. We're in Chapter 16, Path Analysis with Manifest Variables. That's Chapter 16, SEM1, Path Analysis with Manifest Variables. I'm now going to introduce the discussion exercise that I'm assigning to the students for this unit. I'm going to go over the key parts of the discussion exercise as I usually do so that you can hit the ground running. I'm going to tell you which items I want you to work on. I am going to ultimately share the exercise answer key with my students, but I encourage you to go ahead and answer these questions before you look at the answer key, so you'll have some good practice in answering the kinds of questions that will come up on your Canvas quiz dealing with this chapter. In truth, I don't remember whether the items on the Canvas quiz are drawn from this exercise or some similar kind of investigation. So working with this exercise will be good practice to get you ready to take the Canvas quiz that you'll take on Chapter 16. The exercise in question begins on page D145 in your course pack. Now, your exercise is not going to look exactly like this. This is a different copy of the document, but it is the same exercise. In your case, it begins on page D145 in your Psych 400 course pack. It is exercise 16.3, Path Analysis with Manifest Variables, specifically Parasocial Relationships between racing spectators and Formula One drivers, a path model. A subset of items that I'm assigning to students in my Psych 400 class is items 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, and 14. That is the subset of items that you're going to respond to. I plan to make, for what it's worth, I plan to make this specific copy of the exercise available to you so you have those item numbers in front of you. Overview. Sport fans take athletic competition seriously. They attend sporting events in person, watch them on TV, and follow them online. They cross their fingers and hold their breath as they wait to see who will win. But why? What's the big deal? One theory says it's all about relationships. This perspective argues that sport fans experience suspense and similar emotions because they formed a special type of relationship with their heroes, a parasocial relationship. A parasocial relationship is a one-sided relationship that fans form with athletes, movie stars, and other celebrities. Think about yourself, for example. Who are your favorite sports figures? If you think about these athletes often, if they seem like old friends to you, despite the fact that they wouldn't know you from Frodo the Hobbit, then you are involved in a parasocial relationship. Current researchers wanted to investigate these parasocial relationships. They began with a theoretical model which identified the various aspects of parasocial relationships which were hypothesized to have either direct or indirect effects on perceived suspense. They then measured these variables in a sample of 291 fans and used path analysis to determine whether their theoretical model provided a good fit to the data. The study and results described here are fictitious, but they're inspired by the actual investigation reported by Hartman and others published in 2008. I give you the full reference at the end of the exercise. The investigation. In this study, each participant was asked to identify a favorite driver, a Formula One driver that was the subject particularly liked, as well as a disliked driver, a Formula One driver that the subject viewed in a negative way. Participants then completed scales and a questionnaire in which they rated their thoughts and feelings toward these drivers. Original theoretical model. This is on the next page. Original theoretical model. Based on theory and research dealing with parasocial relationships, the researchers identified 7 relevant variables and arranged these variables into a proposed causal model illustrated in E16.3.1. Illustrates their original theoretical model. This is the path model that the researchers tested in their investigation. Notice the ultimate outcome variable, the ultimate consequent variable is suspense experienced during the race. This is the important variable that they're trying to predict. They predicted that it would be directly determined by hope that the favorite driver would win, and hope that the disliked driver would lose. Hope that the favorite driver would win is supposed to be determined by virtual friendship with the favorite driver and respectful interest in the favorite driver. Hope that the disliked driver would lose is supposed to be determined by disinterest toward the disliked driver and antipathy toward the disliked driver. In figure E16.3.1, the ultimate consequent variable appearing on the right is suspense experienced during the race. Model predicts that two variables have direct positive causal effects on suspense. That is, hope that the favorite driver would win and hope that the disliked driver would lose. Remaining variables and causal links in the figure can be interpreted in a similar way. Instrument, the questionnaire that was administered to individuals in this investigation. We can skip down to the names of the variables. Questionnaire that was completed by the participants had multiple item summated rating scales on the following topics. Maybe the most important variable was this: suspense experienced during the race. It was measured by items such as, while watching a race, I often feel great tension. They would strongly agree, strongly disagree, somewhere in between. Multiple items measuring that construct. Another construct, hope that the favorite driver would win, had items like, while watching a race, I always hope that this driver will win, and so forth. Each of the variables that I described in the preceding causal model was measured by a multiple item summated rating scale, and I name those rating scales here and give you a sample item. On the next page, we have analysis and results. The researchers analyzed their data using path analysis with manifest variables, the same kind of procedure that was described in Chapter 16 in our Psych 400 course pack. The first set of results are reported in Table E16.3.1, Path Analysis Results, Fit Indices for Original Theoretical Path Model and Final Modified Path Model. Now, these are indices of model fit that I talked about in my lecture on Chapter 16. The first row presents results for the original theoretical model. If you look closely at the global fit indices, they are not great. This SR-MR should be really small, close to 0. It's not as close to 0 as they would like. CFI should be big, bigger than 0.90 or 0.95, depending on what criteria you like. It didn't work out to be that good. The researchers then modified their model into what they called the final modified model. Now, this row presents global fit indices for the final modified model, but how did this final modified model come about? The results go on to say, Table E16.3.1 actually presents results for two different models. First row that's labeled Original Theoretical Model presents results from analysis of the original model illustrated in figure E16.3.1. Goodness of fit indices show that this model did not provide an acceptable fit to the data according to widely used criteria recommended by Huon, Bentler, and Mueller and Hancock. To address this, a specification search was performed to determine how the initial model might be modified in order to achieve a better fit. Chapter 16 talks about doing specification searches, talks about how researchers are often forced to do them, talked about there are problems with doing specification searches, but we'll disregard these problems for the moment. These researchers conducted a specification search. The specification search led to the following changes, and here I list various changes that were made to their model. We continue. The fit indices for the path model that resulted from these modifications appear in Table E16.3.1 on the row labeled Final Modified Model. Fit indices for this model satisfy the criteria of good fit described above. Graphic representation of the modified model appears in figure E16.3.2. So as I said, they modified the model. Global fit indices for the final modified model appears in this row. And graphic representation of their final modified model appears in figure E16.3.2. Final modified path model with standardized path coefficients appearing on single-headed arrows. This is what their path model looked like after the specification search. Once again, the ultimate endogenous variable is suspense experienced during a race. After they modified their model, they set it up so that it was causally determined by virtual friendship with favorite driver, respectful interest in favorite driver, hope that favorite driver would win, and they made a bunch of other changes to the model in order to get the good fit that they desired. So figure E16.3.2 is their final modified path model. In table E16.3.2, we have path analysis results, direct effects, indirect effects, and total effects of antecedent variables on endogenous variables, final modified model as depicted in the preceding figure. So if you take the final model as depicted here and look at the effect coefficients that were obtained with this model, those effect coefficients are represented in this table. The most important outcome variable was suspense experienced during the race. Here we have the variables that had direct and indirect effects on it. Under the column headed direct, we have direct effect coefficients. Here we have indirect effect coefficients. Here we have total effect coefficients. Another endogenous variable was this, hope that favorite driver will win. Here we see the various statistics computed for that endogenous variable. Another endogenous variable was hope that disliked driver would lose. And here we have the various coefficients for that endogenous variable. After this table comes factual questions. I'm not going to go over the factual questions, but at the beginning of this exercise, I indicated which specific items would be assigned for this. I'm not going to collect your responses to these exercise items. You don't need to write them up and send them to me, but I do encourage you to open up a Word document, type up your answers to these items, and then check your answers against the answer key that I'm going to send to everybody in the class. That'll be the best way of ensuring you understand the concepts and you'll be ready for our quiz that will come up eventually. The assigned items are items 1 and 2. They are items 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, and 14. This is the end of video part 7. This is the last of the videos that I plan to send to you with respect to chapter 16. But do look for additional emails and announcements from me in Canvas and in your email client.